Change your heart, change your life, change the planet.
Hi everybody, Tim Van Orden. Today I want to make another video in my What I've Learned in the Past 20 Years series, prompted by a comment I received this morning on the first video in this series. In that video, I admit that I did not read a book on nutrition for the first 6 years of being vegan. And I don't see that as a positive. I see that as simply a fact. It's what happened, and if you listen to the rest of the video, you see that what I'm sharing is how much I learned in the 14 years after that. But the person that left this comment stopped with my admission of 6 years of no intake of knowledge about nutrition. So they quoted my lack of intake for 6 years, and then said something to the effect of, yeah, like this is the guy that I want to listen to. Implying that because I had a period of 6 years of no vegan information or dietary information, that I know nothing, that I'm fixed in time and can't change, and that nothing that took place after that moment is of any value. And this is called motivated reasoning, which engages the my side bias, otherwise known as confirmation bias. And what this is a feature of the human brain where we look to find reasons to represent our side. And it doesn't matter if it makes sense in an objective, slow perspective. All that matters is that it makes sense in a real-life back and forth conversational sense, because that's how human reason evolved. It didn't evolve in writing. It didn't evolve in mathematics. It evolved in, you're sitting across from me and we're having a conversation, and I did something, or I believe something, or I'm about to do something, and I need you to buy in. I need you to support my choice. I need you to allow my behavior, or I need you to forgive my behavior. So I'm going to have reasons, and it's going to take place right here, right now, real fast. Not me editing a book, which takes 6 years to write, and then having all my reasons well thought out presented to you. That's not the milieu that reason evolved in. It evolved in this rapid fire, iterated elevation or escalation of argument. And often you couldn't go back. In fact, often you couldn't go back and look at what was said prior because there was no writing in the beginning of human interaction and conversation. Writing came much later. And for most of human history, writing was something that only the elites did. Very, very few people could write or read. But now it's so common, we just take it for granted. But that's a very new thing. So when we apply our reasoning faculties, we assume that they're about logic and rationality. But they're not. They were never intended to be about logic or rationality. They're simply about influence. So what this person did in this conversation or in this comment was first try to convince themselves that there is data for their argument, and then try to convince others publicly, because they're leaving the comment in a public forum, not simply having the thought to themselves. And again, because logic didn't evolve in the midst of fact-checking or Google or Wikipedia or the Library of Congress, it's not about proving objective reality or proving objective fact. It's simply about trying to influence first myself and then you or others. If I can get you to believe this, then I'm more confident in it. If I can get others to believe it, then they're going to be more confident in me, and I'm going to be more confident in me. We saw this with the 2016 election in the United States. Half the population is baffled because they're like, that doesn't make objective sense. How is this possible? And then fake news is introduced, and people are just flabbergasted that human beings could be so irrational. But they're under the illusion or delusion that ration or reason is something that evolved to find objective fact. It didn't. It evolved for social influence. And it's really effective, as we saw in the 2016 election, at influencing people Doesn't have to be true, doesn't have to be correct, doesn't have to be objectively or empirically founded. It just has to move people. And when people are moved, it doesn't matter what the reason is. All that matters is that they're moved. And this guy up here, this cognitive engine in our brains, our prefrontal cortex, the so-called human brain, what it really does is argue on behalf of the feelings, argue on behalf of the rest of us, what we would normally call the primitive being, the primitive brain. We have the human brain, and then we have the mammalian brain, or even primate brain, which is a false distinction. And thanks to people like Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, etc., we believe that reason is a perfect faculty that separates man from other creatures, or humans from other creatures. But in reality, what it does is it allows us to justify our animalistic feelings. It allows us to justify our drives, our base desires. And that's not a bad thing. It's what we're built for. But we need to start acknowledging that. So why am I bringing this up? Because this comment was such a great illustration of someone that didn't want to see objective reality. They didn't want to hear what happened in the video after I said I hadn't read a book for the first 6 of 20 years as a vegan. That's all they needed. That was information that supported their feeling about veganism or their feeling about me. So they were done. They didn't need to look further. And because reasons evolved for real life in the moment conversations, they could have an argument with someone where they're not talking about building a logical argument, where they're simply talking about feelings. And you forget where you are in the argument. You forget how it started. You forget why you're talking about what you're talking about. And in the end, what you're left with is a feeling. Do I feel like moving this way, or do I feel like moving this way? Do I feel like I have beaten you, or do I feel like I've lost you? Do I feel like I like you, dislike you, trust you, not trust you? What am I left with as a feeling? Do I feel like I'm safe with you or not? That's what human reason is for. To justify our feelings, to describe our feelings in a way that makes sense to us and to others, not to prove things true. That's simply a side effect. So, as a vegan or a plant-based person, a PBP, I like that, I'm a PBP, yo. My goal, I guess, my mission, if I have a mission, is not to prove other people wrong or prove myself right. Because if you know how a human brain works, you realize that it's not about right and wrong. It's about feelings. And things can feel right or feel wrong even when they're objectively proven to be the opposite. So I'm not postmodernist. And those of you that understand postmodernism, that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm not saying that there is no objective reality, and I'm not saying that nothing can be proven. I'm just saying that human beings don't care if things can be proven. Human beings don't care if things are related to objective reality or not. We simply don't care. Again, 2016 election. I don't care if it's true. It just feels right. So, going around and telling people that they're wrong for the dietary choices that they're making, which may have a foundation in empirical fact or evidence, but that doesn't matter. People don't want truth. They want what feels right. And what feels right is what they know. So you've got to talk to people about what they know. You've got to talk to people about where they feel, the window of feeling that they want to exist inside of, which we often call a comfort zone. You got to meet people in their comfort zone. If you try to pull people out of their comfort zone, they may open up their eyes for a moment and they may see some information, but they're quickly going to use their reasoning faculties to extract some data, like he didn't read a book for 6 years, and then use that to support their own argument, which allows them to come back into their comfort zone, now feeling more confident and more secure that that's exactly where they should be. So what I try to do now first is to hopefully gently expose people to their own thinking, their own mechanism, their own being, and then meet them there inside of their own being, inside of their own mechanisms, rather than judging them or making them wrong. Because if I'm objectively right, if I've got the data on my side, and I slam you with it thinking that you're an idiot if you don't see it, you're an idiot if you don't change your mind, then I don't understand what a brain is. And I don't understand the purpose of reason. Because if I did, I would use my reasons to help them transform their ideas in a way that felt safe to them, rather than in a way that makes them feel less safe, if that makes sense. All right, leave your comments below. I'm curious to hear what you think about this. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you hate this video, let me know. Don't just dislike it. Let me know what you didn't like about it. And if you like this channel, subscribe and click the bell to get the updates. And if you want to hear me talk about this more and more and more, come on over to Patreon. For $1 or $2 a month, you help keep this channel alive. All right, I'll see you soon.